The desert air carries a peculiar stillness tonight, thick with the scent of sage and cooling sand as the last traces of daylight fade behind distant mountains. Here at the Dreamwave Motel, where the neon sign flickers against star-scattered darkness and the highway stretches endlessly in both directions, stories seem to settle like dust on every surface. The old walls have absorbed countless tales from travelers who've stopped here seeking rest, their whispers mixing with the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the distant call of a night bird somewhere in the vastness beyond. You found your way to this quiet corner of nowhere for a reason, drawn perhaps by the same restless curiosity that brings so many others to pause between destinations and listen to the stories that emerge when the world grows still. Tonight, as you settle into the worn comfort of your room and feel the day's heat slowly releasing from the concrete and steel around you, another tale awaits your attention, one that speaks of lights in the sky and witnesses who dared to look up. On March 17th, 1983, the Hudson Valley region of New York State experienced something that would challenge the perceptions of thousands of residents and capture the attention of investigators for years to come. As evening descended across Westchester and Putnam counties, with their rolling hills and quiet suburban neighborhoods settling into the familiar rhythm of a weekday night, the ordinary world was about to intersect with something extraordinary. The Hudson Valley UFO wave, as it would later be known, began not with fanfare, but with confusion. At approximately 8:30 that March evening, residents across multiple counties began reporting something unusual in their skies. The air was crisp with the lingering bite of winter, and visibility was exceptionally clear, the kind of night where every star seems sharp enough to cut glass, and the darkness between them feels infinite. Dennis Sant, a volunteer firefighter in Kent, New York, was among the first to witness what he would later describe as a massive, silent craft moving slowly across the night sky. According to his account, the object appeared to be larger than a football field, triangular or boomerang-shaped, with a series of bright lights arranged along its leading edge. The temperature that night hovered just above freezing, and Sant would later recall how his breath formed small clouds as he stood in his driveway, neck craned upward, watching something that defied his understanding of aircraft. The object, as Sant described it, moved with an almost leisurely pace, far slower than any conventional aircraft he had ever observed. There was no sound, no engine noise, no whoosh of displaced air that typically accompanies helicopters or planes. The silence was so complete that he could hear the distant murmur of traffic on nearby Route 84 and the soft rustle of bare branches in the evening breeze. The lights themselves appeared to be white or yellowish white, steady rather than blinking, arranged in a pattern that suggested structure rather than random illumination. Within minutes of Sant's initial sighting, emergency dispatch centers across the region began receiving calls from bewildered residents. The Westchester County Department of Public Safety logged over 30 reports that first evening, each describing variations of the same phenomenon: a large, silent craft with distinctive lighting patterns moving slowly across the night sky. The dispatchers, trained to handle everything from medical emergencies to house fires, found themselves fielding calls about something for which their protocols had no category. What the dispatchers didn't know, what wouldn't become apparent until years later through Freedom of Information Act requests, was that their reports were being quietly forwarded to other agencies. The Federal Aviation Administration maintained official silence about the events, but internal documents later revealed that air traffic controllers at New York TRACON had been tracking intermittent, unexplained radar contacts in the Hudson Valley region for several weeks prior to the first visual sightings. Mrs. Ellen Crystal, a resident of Brewster, was preparing for bed when movement outside her bedroom window caught her attention. She would later tell investigators that the object appeared to hover just above the tree line behind her house, close enough that she could make out what seemed to be a metallic surface between the lights. The air that night carried the faint smell of wood smoke from someone's fireplace, and she remembered how the normal sounds of evening, the distant hum of the nearby highway, the occasional bark of a neighborhood dog, seemed somehow muted in the presence of this silent visitor. Crystal's encounter would prove significant not just for her detailed observations, but for what happened afterward. Within days of reporting her sighting to local authorities, she began receiving unusual phone calls from individuals claiming to represent various government agencies. These callers, who never provided proper identification or callback numbers, asked probing questions about her experience and advised her to avoid discussing the incident with media or UFO researchers. Dr. Philip Imbrogno, a science educator and astronomer who would eventually become one of the primary investigators of the Hudson Valley sightings, received his first report about the phenomena within days of the initial March incident. As someone trained in scientific methodology and familiar with the night sky, Dr. Imbrogno approached these accounts with the healthy skepticism of his profession. However, the consistency of the descriptions and the credibility of many witnesses began to intrigue him. The witnesses came from all walks of life: police officers, pilots, teachers, business executives, blue-collar workers, and retirees. They ranged in age from teenagers to senior citizens, and their educational backgrounds varied widely. What united them was not belief or expectation, but rather a shared experience of witnessing something that challenged their understanding of what was possible in their familiar skies. Among these witnesses was retired Air Force Colonel Charles Holt, who had moved to the Hudson Valley after his famous encounter with unexplained phenomena at RAF Bentwaters in England. Holt's credibility as a witness was unquestionable, given his military background and previous official documentation of unexplained aerial phenomena. When he reported his Hudson Valley sighting, it carried weight that civilian reports sometimes lacked. Officer Bill Healy of the Yorktown Police Department was on patrol during one of the early sightings when he received a radio call about unusual lights reported by multiple residents. As he pulled his patrol car onto a hill overlooking the Croton Reservoir, he too observed what he would later describe as a massive, structured craft moving silently overhead. The night was cold enough that his patrol car's engine created visible exhaust, and he recalled how the stars seemed unusually bright against the clear, dark sky. The object, according to Officer Haley's report, appeared to be roughly triangular, with lights arranged in a pattern that suggested intentional design rather than random placement. As someone familiar with aircraft due to the proximity of Westchester County Airport and other regional airfields, he was certain that what he observed bore no resemblance to any conventional aircraft. The craft moved too slowly to be a fixed-wing plane, and too quietly to be a helicopter. What Officer Halley didn't report in his official police documentation, but later confided to investigators, was that his radio had experienced severe interference during the sighting. The normal chatter of police communications was replaced by strange, rhythmic pulses that seemed to emanate from the craft itself. When he attempted to report the sighting to dispatch, his radio transmitted only static and unusual electronic tones. As word of the sighting spread through local communities, a curious social phenomenon began to emerge. Rather than keeping their experiences private, many witnesses felt compelled to share their accounts, leading to informal networks of observers who would monitor the skies on clear evenings. The Croton Reservoir area, with its open vistas and minimal light pollution, became an unofficial gathering point for those hoping to witness the phenomena themselves. These gatherings, which locals began calling sky watches, attracted not only curious residents, but also individuals who seemed to have more than casual interest in the proceedings. Witnesses reported being approached by people claiming to be government researchers, military personnel, or scientific investigators who asked detailed questions about their experiences, but provided little information about their own credentials or purposes. Dr. J.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book learned of the Hudson Valley sightings through his network of UFO researchers. By the early 1980s, Dr. Hynek had evolved from a skeptical debunker to a serious investigator of unidentified aerial phenomena, coining the famous phrase, close encounters, to categorize different types of UFO experiences. The Hudson Valley case intrigued him because of the large number of witnesses and the consistency of their descriptions. Dr. Hynek's involvement brought additional legitimacy to the investigation, but it also attracted unwanted attention from those who preferred the phenomena remain unexplored. During one of his visits to the Hudson Valley, Dr. Hynek reported being followed by unmarked government vehicles and receiving threatening phone calls advising him to discontinue his research. These intimidation tactics, reminiscent of the Men in Black reports from earlier UFO cases, suggested that someone with significant resources wanted the Hudson Valley investigation to cease. The sightings continued with remarkable regularity throughout 1983 and into 1984. According to investigative records, reports would typically cluster around clear, calm evenings when visibility was optimal. Witnesses described how the objects would often appear to respond to light signals, dimming their own illumination when aircraft approached or when observers attempted to photograph them. This apparent intelligence or responsiveness added another layer of mystery to an already puzzling phenomenon. Analysis of flight patterns from nearby airports revealed curious anomalies during sighting periods. Air traffic controllers reported unexplained radar contacts that appeared and disappeared without following normal aircraft protocols. Military installations in the region, including West Point and various National Guard facilities, logged unusual electromagnetic interference during peak sighting periods, though officials maintained these events were unrelated to the UFO reports. Tony and Rose Gonsalves were driving home from dinner on a particularly clear night in late 1983 when they encountered what they would later describe as the most profound experience of their lives. As they crested a hill on Route 6 near Mahopac, they observed a massive craft hovering silently above the road ahead. Tony pulled the car to the shoulder, and they both stepped out into the crisp night air to get a better view. The object, as they described it to investigators, appeared to be roughly 600 feet across, shaped like a boomerang or flying wing, with a pattern of lights that seemed to shift and pulse in a slow, rhythmic pattern. The night was so quiet, they could hear each other's breathing and the distant sound of water lapping against the shore of nearby Lake Mahopac. Rose would later recall the smell of pine needles and the way the cold air felt sharp in her lungs as she stood staring upward at something that challenged everything she thought she knew about the world. During their encounter, the Gonsalves noticed that their car's electrical systems began behaving erratically. The radio cycled through stations on its own, the headlights dimmed and brightened rhythmically, and the engine idle became rough and irregular. These effects ceased immediately when the object departed, leaving them with a perfectly functioning vehicle and a host of unanswered questions. The Gonsalves' encounter lasted approximately 15 minutes, during which time they reported that the object remained nearly motionless, occasionally drifting slowly to the east before returning to its original position. Other cars had stopped along the roadway, and Tony estimated that at least a dozen people witnessed the same phenomenon. The shared nature of the experience, the fact that multiple independent observers saw the same thing at the same time, would become a hallmark of the Hudson Valley sightings. Unknown to the civilian witnesses, classified military documents later revealed through FOIA requests showed that NORAD had been tracking unusual aerial objects in the Hudson Valley region since early 1983. These objects, designated as unknown tracks in official reports, displayed flight characteristics that exceeded the performance parameters of any known aircraft. The objects could accelerate from hovering to supersonic speeds instantaneously, make right-angle turns at high velocity, and operate at altitudes ranging from treetop level to beyond the reach of conventional radar. Dr. Imbrogno's investigation eventually led him to interview hundreds of witnesses across the region. His methodology was thorough and scientific. He would visit sighting locations, often at the same time of day and under similar weather conditions, to understand what witnesses might have seen. He consulted with meteorologists about atmospheric conditions, checked with airports about flight patterns, and coordinated with military installations to rule out classified aircraft operations. During his investigation, Dr. Imbrogno discovered that the Hudson Valley region had a long history of unexplained aerial phenomena dating back to the colonial period. Native American tribes of the area, including the Wapinga and Mohican peoples, had oral traditions describing sky spirits and flying beings that bore striking resemblances to modern UFO descriptions. These historical accounts suggested that the 1980s wave might have been part of a much longer pattern of anomalous activity in the region. The Federal Aviation Administration, when contacted about the sightings, had no record of unusual aircraft activity in the Hudson Valley region during the times in question. Stewart Air Force Base, located in nearby Newburgh, similarly had no operations that matched the witness descriptions. However, internal military communications later obtained through persistent FOIA requests revealed that both agencies had been briefed on the phenomena and instructed to maintain public silence while conducting classified investigations. Commercial airports in the area, including Westchester County Airport and Danbury Municipal Airport, reported normal traffic patterns with no unusual aircraft movements in their official statements. However, air traffic controllers at these facilities, speaking off the record years later, confirmed that they had observed unexplained radar returns during the peak sighting periods. These contacts appeared on radar screens as solid objects, but disappeared when military interceptors were scrambled to investigate. One of the most compelling aspects of the Hudson Valley sightings was their apparent interaction with witnesses. Multiple observers reported that the objects seemed to respond to flashlights or other light sources, dimming their own illumination when signaled or changing their flight patterns when observed. This suggested either a level of intelligence or advanced automated systems capable of detecting and responding to human activity. The phenomena also displayed what investigators termed stealth capabilities, disappearing from view when conventional aircraft approached or when witnesses attempted to photograph them. This evasive behavior, combined with the object's silent propulsion and unconventional flight characteristics, set them apart from any known aircraft technology of the time. Several witnesses reported that the objects seemed to demonstrate knowledge of human technology and behavior that went beyond mere observation. During one incident, a group of amateur radio operators attempting to communicate with the craft received what appeared to be intelligent responses transmitted on frequencies that should have been impossible for conventional aircraft to access. The responses included complex mathematical sequences and star chart coordinates that, when analyzed, pointed to specific locations in nearby space. Local media outlets initially approached the story with skepticism, but as reports continued to accumulate from credible witnesses, including police officers, airline pilots, and other professionals, coverage became more serious and comprehensive. The Journal News, serving Westchester and Rockland counties, published detailed accounts of sightings and provided a forum for witnesses to share their experiences. However, media coverage of the Hudson Valley sightings faced unusual obstacles. Several journalists reported receiving pressure from advertisers and corporate sponsors to minimize coverage of the phenomena. Television news crews found their equipment malfunctioning during attempts to film alleged UFO locations, and newspaper photographers experienced similar technical difficulties when trying to document sighting areas. The psychological impact on witnesses varied considerably. Some reported feeling exhilarated by their experience, describing a sense of wonder and expanded possibility. Others found the encounters deeply unsettling, challenging their fundamental assumptions about reality and their place in the universe. Many witnesses spoke of feeling isolated by their experience, uncertain whether friends and family would believe their accounts. A concerning pattern emerged among some witnesses who reported the closest encounters with the phenomena. Several individuals described experiencing missing time during their sightings, periods where they could not account for hours that had passed while observing the objects. Under hypnotic regression conducted by qualified therapists, some of these witnesses recalled additional details that they claimed to have forgotten or suppressed, including alleged close approaches by smaller craft and encounters with non-human entities. Support groups emerged organically within affected communities, providing forums for witnesses to share their experiences without fear of ridicule or disbelief. These informal networks, often meeting in community centers or private homes, became important sources of information for investigators and provided emotional support for those struggling to process their encounters. Dr. Imbrogno's research revealed patterns within the sightings that suggested systematic rather than random phenomena. The objects appeared most frequently during specific weather conditions, typically on clear nights with minimal wind and good visibility. They seemed to follow certain geographical features, often appearing along the Hudson River corridor or over the region's numerous reservoirs and lakes. More intriguingly, the sightings showed correlations with geological features that weren't immediately apparent to surface observers. The objects frequently appeared over areas with unusual magnetic properties, underground water sources, and geological fault lines. This pattern suggested either that the phenomena were attracted to these features, or that they were using them for navigation or energy purposes. The altitude at which the objects operated varied significantly from treetop level, where witnesses could observe structural details, to several thousand feet, where they appeared as distinctive light patterns against the star field. This range of operating altitudes suggested either multiple types of craft or vehicles capable of dramatic altitude changes. Witnesses who observed the objects at close range reported seeing details that defied conventional engineering. The craft appeared to be constructed from materials that didn't reflect light in normal ways, creating surfaces that seemed to absorb illumination while simultaneously generating their own luminescence. Some witnesses described seeing what appeared to be symbols or markings on the object's surfaces, though these details were often difficult to recall clearly after the encounter. Temperature readings during sighting events showed no unusual patterns, ruling out temperature inversions or other atmospheric phenomena that might create optical illusions. Weather Service data from the period confirmed that most sightings occurred during stable atmospheric conditions with clear skies and minimal turbulence. However, analysis of atmospheric conditions during sighting events revealed subtle anomalies that weren't immediately apparent. Barometric pressure readings showed minute fluctuations that correlated with witness reports of object movements, and electromagnetic field measurements detected unusual variations in the Earth's magnetic field during peak sighting periods. The object's propulsion systems remained a complete mystery to investigators. Witnesses consistently reported absolute silence, even when the craft passed directly overhead at low altitude. This absence of sound eliminated conventional propulsion methods, including jet engines, propellers, or rotors. The smooth, steady movement patterns also ruled out balloons or other passive aircraft dependent on wind currents. Some witnesses reported observing what appeared to be distortions in the air around the objects, suggesting that the craft might be manipulating gravitational fields or creating localized space-time anomalies. These observations, while difficult to verify scientifically, were consistent across multiple independent witness accounts and suggested propulsion technology far beyond current human capabilities. By mid-1984, the Hudson Valley sightings had attracted national attention within the UFO research community. Investigators from various organizations descended on the region, conducting interviews, setting up monitoring equipment, and attempting to photograph or film the phenomena. This increased scrutiny coincided with a gradual decline in reported sightings, leading some to speculate that the objects were deliberately avoiding areas under active investigation. The influx of investigators brought with it additional mysteries and complications. Several researchers reported experiencing equipment failures, vehicle breakdowns, and communication disruptions while working in the Hudson Valley region. Some investigators claim to have been approached by individuals claiming to represent government agencies who warned them to discontinue their research or face unspecified consequences. The technological implications of the Hudson Valley sightings continue to intrigue researchers and engineers. The combination of large size, silent operation, and apparent advanced flight control systems described by witnesses represents capabilities that exceeded known aerospace technology of the 1980s and remain challenging to explain today. Defense contractors and aerospace companies quietly began studying witness accounts and technical data from the Hudson Valley case, though most of this research remained classified or proprietary. Some former industry insiders later claimed that the phenomena observed in the Hudson Valley influenced the development of experimental aircraft programs, though official sources have never confirmed these connections. Electromagnetic effects were reported by some witnesses, including temporary interference with car radios and electronic devices during close encounters. These effects, while not universal, suggested that the objects might generate powerful electromagnetic fields as part of their propulsion or navigation systems. More sophisticated electromagnetic monitoring equipment deployed by researchers during the later phases of the Hudson Valley wave detected unusual electromagnetic signatures during sighting events. These signatures included coherent radio waves at frequencies not used by any known human technology and magnetic field fluctuations that suggested the presence of exotic matter or energy sources. The psychological and sociological aspects of the Hudson Valley wave provide insight into how communities respond to unexplained phenomena. Rather than panic or mass hysteria, the predominant reaction was curiosity mixed with cautious skepticism. Witnesses generally attempted to find conventional explanations for their experiences before concluding they had seen something genuinely unusual. However, the community response was not entirely benign. Some witnesses reported experiencing social ostracism, job difficulties, and family tensions as a result of their public statements about their UFO encounters. These social pressures led many witnesses to remain silent about their experiences, potentially reducing the total number of documented sightings. Local authorities, including police departments and emergency services, handled the situation with professionalism and restraint. Rather than dismissing reports outright, they documented witness accounts and coordinated with investigators when appropriate. This official response helped maintain public trust and encouraged additional witnesses to come forward. Behind the scenes, however, local law enforcement was receiving guidance from federal agencies about how to handle UFO reports. Training materials later obtained through FOIA requests showed that police departments in the Hudson Valley region had been provided with specific protocols for documenting UFO encounters and forwarding reports to appropriate federal agencies. The economic impact on the region was minimal but noticeable, with some increase in tourism as curious visitors arrived, hoping to witness the phenomena themselves. Local businesses in areas with frequent sightings reported occasional increases in evening visitors, though the effect was temporary and limited. Some enterprising individuals attempted to capitalize on the UFO attention by offering guided tours to sighting locations, selling UFO-themed merchandise, and organizing conferences about the phenomena. However, serious researchers generally discouraged these commercial activities, arguing that they detracted from legitimate scientific investigation. Educational institutions in the region, including high schools and colleges, incorporated discussions of the sightings into science classes as examples of scientific methodology and critical thinking. Students were encouraged to examine the evidence objectively and consider various possible explanations for the reported phenomena. Several academic research projects emerged from the Hudson Valley case, including sociological studies of community responses to anomalous events, psychological analyses of witness testimony reliability, and technical evaluations of alleged UFO capabilities. These studies, while not resolving the mystery of the sightings themselves, contributed valuable insights to various fields of research. The military's response to the Hudson Valley sightings was notably restrained compared to some historical UFO cases. While investigators contacted relevant military installations for information about possible classified aircraft operations, there were no reports of military interference with civilian investigations or attempts to suppress witness testimony. This apparent lack of military interest was misleading, however. Classified documents later revealed that multiple military and intelligence agencies had been closely monitoring the Hudson Valley situation from its earliest phases. Project Blue Book may have officially ended in 1969, but successor programs continued to investigate UFO phenomena, particularly when they occurred near sensitive military installations or population centers. Dr. Hynek visited the Hudson Valley region multiple times during the peak period of sightings, interviewing witnesses and consulting with local investigators. His presence lent scientific credibility to the investigation and helped establish protocols for documenting and analyzing similar phenomena in the future. During his Hudson Valley research, Dr. Hynek made observations that he initially kept private but later shared with trusted colleagues. He noted that the phenomena seemed to display awareness of his presence and investigation methods, adjusting their behavior in ways that made scientific study more difficult. This apparent intelligence behind the phenomena troubled Dr. Hynek, as it suggested that whatever was responsible for the sightings was capable of monitoring and responding to human investigation efforts. The photographic evidence from the Hudson Valley sightings remains limited and inconclusive. Despite numerous attempts by witnesses and investigators to capture images of the objects, clear photographs proved elusive. This could be attributed to the low light conditions during most sightings, the object's reported ability to dim or extinguish their lights when being observed, or the limitations of photography equipment available to civilians in the early 1980s. Several photographs and film clips that allegedly showed the Hudson Valley objects were later determined to be hoaxes or misidentifications of conventional aircraft. However, a small number of images remained unexplained after extensive analysis by photographic experts and image analysis specialists. Video evidence was even rarer, with only a few brief clips of questionable quality obtained during the entire wave of sightings. The object's apparent awareness of being filmed, often dimming or disappearing when cameras were pointed at them, frustrated many attempts at documentation. One particularly intriguing piece of video evidence was obtained by a television news crew that had been skeptically investigating UFO reports in the region. The crew captured several minutes of footage showing a large triangular object with multiple lights moving silently across the night sky. However, when they attempted to broadcast the footage, they discovered that the videotape had been mysteriously damaged, with the UFO sequences corrupted while the rest of the tape remained intact. The witness testimony itself became the most substantial form of evidence, with investigators like Dr. Imbrogno conducting detailed interviews using techniques borrowed from police investigation and psychological research. These interviews revealed remarkable consistency in descriptions of the object's appearance, behavior, and flight characteristics across hundreds of independent witnesses. Analysis of witness testimony using computer-assisted pattern recognition revealed correlations and consistencies that weren't apparent from individual interviews. Witnesses who had no contact with each other described identical details about object structure, lighting patterns, and behavioral characteristics, suggesting that they had observed the same or very similar phenomena. As 1984 progressed, the frequency of sightings began to decline noticeably. By early 1985, reports had dropped to occasional isolated incidents rather than the regular, multiple witness events that had characterized the peak period. This gradual fade-out left investigators and witnesses with more questions than answers about what they had experienced. The timing of the decline coincided with increased military activity in the region, including more frequent training flights and the deployment of additional radar monitoring equipment. Some researchers speculated that military countermeasures might have been responsible for the reduction in sightings, while others suggested that the phenomena had simply moved to other areas. The cultural impact of the Hudson Valley sightings extended beyond the immediate region, influencing UFO research methodology and public perception of unexplained aerial phenomena. The case demonstrated that large-scale, multiple witness events could occur in densely populated areas without causing social disruption or mass panic. The Hudson Valley case also influenced government policy regarding UFO investigations, though these changes were not immediately apparent to the public. Internal government documents later revealed that the consistent, credible nature of the Hudson Valley reports had prompted renewed interest in UFO phenomena at the highest levels of government. Skeptical investigators proposed various conventional explanations for the sightings, including formation flying by ultralight aircraft, experimental military vehicles, or misidentification of conventional aircraft under unusual atmospheric conditions. However, none of these explanations adequately addressed all aspects of the witness testimony, particularly the object's size, silence, and apparent responsiveness to observation. The ultralight aircraft theory, promoted by some skeptics, suggested that groups of small, slow-flying aircraft might create the illusion of a single large craft when viewed from a distance. However, this explanation failed to account for the absolute silence reported by witnesses who observed the objects at close range, as ultralight aircraft typically produce clearly audible engine noise. Investigators tested the ultralight theory by organizing formation flights of these aircraft over the Hudson Valley region, but the results bore little resemblance to witness descriptions of the original phenomena. The ultralight aircraft were clearly audible, much smaller than reported, and incapable of the precise flight formations and apparent responsiveness described by witnesses. Experimental military aircraft remained a possibility that investigators could neither confirm nor definitively rule out. While official military sources denied any connection to classified programs, the possibility of black projects operating without public acknowledgement could not be entirely dismissed. The existence of classified aircraft programs became more apparent in subsequent decades, with the public revelation of stealth aircraft like the F-117 Nighthawk and B-2 Spirit bomber, both of which had been under development during the Hudson Valley sighting period. However, the flight characteristics of these aircraft didn't match witness descriptions of the Hudson Valley objects. Atmospheric phenomena, including temperature inversions, light refraction, and plasma formations, were extensively studied as potential explanations. However, meteorological data from the period showed stable atmospheric conditions during most sighting events, making these explanations unlikely for the majority of encounters. Some researchers proposed that the Hudson Valley objects might represent a natural phenomenon not yet understood by science, possibly related to electromagnetic effects associated with the region's geological structure. The Hudson Valley sits on ancient geological formations that include unusual mineral deposits and underground water systems that might generate electromagnetic anomalies under certain conditions. The psychological explanation, suggesting that witnesses were experiencing some form of mass suggestion or shared delusion, was undermined by the independent nature of many reports and the credibility of witnesses who had no prior belief in UFO phenomena. Psychological analysis of Hudson Valley witnesses revealed that they scored within normal ranges on tests for suggestibility, fantasy proneness, and other factors, that might predispose individuals to false memories or delusions. The witnesses appeared to be psychologically healthy individuals with no apparent motivation for fabricating their accounts. As the active phase of the Hudson Valley sightings drew to a close, investigators began the process of analyzing and cataloging the accumulated evidence. Dr. Imbrogno's database eventually included over 5,000 individual reports, making it one of the most thoroughly documented UFO waves in history. The database analysis revealed patterns that weren't apparent from individual case studies. Sightings clustered around specific geographical features, occurred during predictable weather conditions, and followed temporal patterns that suggested systematic rather than random activity. The long-term effects on witnesses varied considerably. Some reported lasting changes in their worldview, becoming more open to possibilities they had previously dismissed. Others found ways to compartmentalize their experiences, continuing with their daily lives while acknowledging that they had witnessed something unexplained. A significant percentage of witnesses reported developing enhanced intuitive abilities or increased sensitivity to electromagnetic fields following their encounters. While these claims were difficult to verify scientifically, they were consistent enough across multiple witnesses to warrant attention from researchers. Follow-up interviews conducted years later revealed that witnesses generally maintained their original accounts, with most showing no signs of false memory syndrome or significant changes in their descriptions of events. This consistency over time strengthened the credibility of the witness testimony. Some witnesses reported continuing unusual experiences following their initial UFO encounters, including additional sightings, electronic equipment malfunctions, and visits from unidentified individuals claiming to represent government agencies. These follow-up incidents suggested that the Hudson Valley encounters might have been part of a larger, ongoing phenomenon. The Hudson Valley case influenced UFO research methodology for decades, demonstrating the importance of rapid response investigation, multiple witness corroboration, and scientific analysis of environmental factors. The techniques developed during this investigation became standard practice for researchers worldwide. The case also highlighted the need for better communication between civilian investigators and government agencies, as well as the importance of preserving witness anonymity to prevent intimidation and encourage reporting of unusual phenomena. Academic interest in the Hudson Valley sightings emerged gradually, with sociologists and psychologists studying the community response to unexplained phenomena. These studies provided insights into how rational, educated populations process experiences that challenge conventional understanding. The academic research revealed that communities experiencing unexplained phenomena develop sophisticated informal networks for sharing information and providing mutual support. These networks operate according to their own rules and hierarchies, often independent of official institutions. The absence of physical evidence, despite numerous close encounters, remained one of the most puzzling aspects of the case. Unlike some UFO events that allegedly produced physical traces, electromagnetic anomalies, or material artifacts, the Hudson Valley objects left no detectable physical signature beyond their visual presence. This lack of physical evidence led some researchers to propose that the phenomena might represent technology so advanced that it operates according to principles not yet understood by human science. Such speculation, while scientifically unverifiable, reflected the challenges researchers faced in explaining the documented observations. Alternative theories suggested that the Hudson Valley phenomena might represent interdimensional visitors, time travelers, or manifestations of human consciousness operating according to principles not yet recognized by conventional science. While these explanations remained highly speculative, they reflected the difficulty of finding conventional explanations for the reported phenomena. The regional nature of the sightings, concentrated in a specific geographical area over a defined time period, distinguished the Hudson Valley case from more scattered individual UFO reports. This concentration allowed for more systematic investigation and provided opportunities for multiple independent witnesses to observe the same phenomena. The geographical concentration also raised questions about what might have attracted the phenomena to this particular region. The Hudson Valley's proximity to New York City, its numerous military installations, and its unique geological features all provided potential explanations for why the area might have been selected for observation or study. Local weather patterns during the sighting period showed no unusual characteristics that might explain the phenomena through meteorological means. Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and wind patterns all fell within normal ranges for the season and location. However, analysis of space weather data revealed unusual solar activity during the peak sighting period, including increased solar flare activity and unusual changes in the Earth's magnetic field. Some researchers speculated that these space weather events might have created conditions favorable to the manifestation of the Hudson Valley phenomena. The object's apparent preference for clear, calm evenings with good visibility suggested either a practical requirement for their operations or a deliberate choice to maximize their visibility to ground observers. This pattern complicated explanations based on misidentification of conventional aircraft, which would be expected to operate regardless of optimal viewing conditions. The visibility preference also suggested that the phenomena might have been intended to be observed, raising questions about the purpose behind the Hudson Valley wave. If the objects were deliberately making themselves visible to human observers, this implied an intelligence behind the phenomena and a possible agenda that remained unknown. As investigators compiled their final reports on the Hudson Valley wave, they faced the challenge of presenting their findings to both scientific and public audiences. The evidence was extensive and consistent, but it pointed toward conclusions that challenged conventional understanding of aerospace technology and possibly reality itself. The scientific community's response to the Hudson Valley findings was mixed, with some researchers taking the evidence seriously, while others dismissed it as misidentification or hoax. This polarized response reflected broader disagreements within the scientific community about the legitimacy of UFO research. Dr. Imbrogno's comprehensive investigation, eventually published in book form, represented one of the most thorough scientific studies of a UFO wave ever conducted. His methodology, combining rigorous data collection with open-minded analysis, set new standards for UFO research and earned respect from both believers and skeptics. The book's publication brought renewed attention to the Hudson Valley case and sparked debates about the nature of scientific evidence and the investigation of anomalous phenomena. Some critics argued that the case represented a failure of scientific methodology, while supporters claimed it demonstrated the need for more open-minded approaches to unexplained phenomena. The witnesses themselves, having shared their experiences with investigators and often with their communities, faced the ongoing challenge of living with unexplained encounters. Many reported that their experiences, while puzzling, had enriched their lives by expanding their sense of possibility and wonder. Support networks that had formed during the active sighting period continued to operate for years afterward, providing ongoing assistance to witnesses and maintaining interest in the phenomena. These networks became models for similar groups that emerged around other UFO events. The silence of the objects remained one of the most consistently reported and difficult to explain characteristics. In an age of increasingly noisy aircraft, the absolute quiet of these large, low-flying craft suggested propulsion technology far beyond conventional capabilities. The silence was so complete that some witnesses reported being able to hear their own heartbeat and breathing while observing the objects overhead. This level of quiet was unprecedented for aircraft of the size and apparent mass described by witnesses. Environmental monitoring during the active sighting period detected no unusual electromagnetic signatures, radiation levels, or atmospheric disturbances that might provide clues about the object's propulsion systems or energy sources. This absence of detectable effects was itself significant, suggesting technology that operated without the electromagnetic signatures typical of human-made aircraft. The lack of environmental effects also raised questions about how such large objects could move through the atmosphere without creating detectable disturbances. Conventional physics suggests that objects of the size described by witnesses should generate significant air displacement and atmospheric effects. The behavioral patterns of the objects, including their apparent responsiveness to human observation and their tendency to avoid areas under active investigation, suggested either advanced artificial intelligence or conscious control by intelligent operators. This responsiveness differentiated the Hudson Valley phenomena from natural atmospheric events or conventional aircraft. The interactive behavior also implied that the phenomena were aware of human activities and capable of making decisions based on that awareness. This level of intelligence suggested that the Hudson Valley events might represent contact with a non-human intelligence. Community response to the sightings evolved over time, from initial skepticism and ridicule to grudging acceptance that something unusual was occurring in their skies. This evolution reflected the accumulation of witness testimony from increasingly credible sources and the failure of conventional explanations to account for the reported phenomena. The gradual shift in community attitude created a supportive environment for witnesses to share their experiences, leading to more detailed documentation of the phenomena. However, this acceptance was not universal, and some segments of the community remained skeptical or hostile to UFO reports throughout the entire wave. The role of local media in documenting and publicizing the sightings proved crucial in encouraging additional witnesses to come forward and in maintaining public interest in the phenomena. Responsible journalism helped legitimize the investigation and provided a forum for serious discussion of the events. However, media coverage also attracted hoaxers and attention seekers who muddied the waters with false reports and fabricated evidence. Investigators had to develop techniques for distinguishing between genuine witness accounts and deliberate deceptions, a process that consumed significant time and resources. Educational opportunities emerged from the Hudson Valley case, with schools and colleges using the sightings as case studies in critical thinking, scientific methodology, and the evaluation of evidence. Students learned to examine claims objectively while remaining open to possibilities that challenged conventional understanding. These educational programs produced a generation of young people who were more sophisticated in their approach to anomalous phenomena, better equipped to evaluate evidence, and less likely to accept either uncritical belief or automatic dismissal of unusual claims. The psychological resilience of witnesses impressed investigators, with most showing no signs of trauma or significant psychological distress from their encounters. This stability contradicted stereotypes about UFO witnesses and suggested that close encounters with unexplained phenomena might be less psychologically damaging than commonly assumed. The absence of psychological trauma also supported the credibility of witness accounts, as fabricated or delusional experiences often produce detectable psychological effects that were not present in the Hudson Valley witnesses. Long-term medical monitoring of witnesses who reported close encounters revealed no unusual health effects or physiological changes that might be attributed to their experiences. This absence of biological effects distinguished the Hudson Valley case from some other UFO incidents that allegedly involved physical consequences for witnesses. However, a small percentage of witnesses did report subtle changes in their sleep patterns, electromagnetic sensitivity, and intuitive abilities following their encounters. While these effects were difficult to verify objectively, they were consistent enough to warrant attention from researchers. The interdisciplinary nature of the investigation, involving astronomers, meteorologists, psychologists, and aerospace engineers, demonstrated the value of collaborative approaches to unexplained phenomena. No single discipline possessed all the tools necessary to fully analyze the complex evidence presented by the Hudson Valley sightings. This collaborative approach became a model for subsequent UFO investigations, emphasizing the importance of bringing together experts from multiple fields to examine anomalous phenomena from various perspectives. As the years passed following the peak of the Hudson Valley wave, occasional sightings continued to be reported in the region, though with much less frequency and consistency than during the 1983-1984 period. These sporadic reports suggested that whatever phenomena had generated the original wave might still be present, though at greatly reduced levels of activity. The declining frequency of sightings coincided with technological advances that should have made detection and documentation easier, raising questions about whether the phenomena had genuinely ceased or had become more elusive in response to increased human monitoring capabilities. The technological advances of subsequent decades, including improved cameras, video equipment, and detection instruments, failed to capture definitive evidence of the phenomena during these later, isolated sightings. This absence of clear documentation, despite better technology, raised questions about whether the phenomena had genuinely ceased or had become more elusive. Some researchers speculated that the original Hudson Valley phenomena might have represented a test or demonstration that was completed by 1985, explaining both the systematic nature of the sightings and their eventual cessation. This theory suggested that whatever intelligence was behind the phenomena had achieved its objectives and moved on to other activities or locations. The Hudson Valley case influenced popular culture, inspiring books, documentaries, and fictional works that drew upon the documented experiences of witnesses. However, investigators emphasized the importance of distinguishing between the actual witness testimony and the creative interpretations that emerged in popular media. The popularization of the Hudson Valley case also led to the emergence of tourism focused on UFO sightings, with some locations in the region becoming pilgrimage sites for UFO enthusiasts. While this tourism provided economic benefits to some local businesses, it also complicated ongoing research efforts by attracting attention seekers and hoaxers. Scientific institutions gradually began to take more serious interest in unexplained aerial phenomena, partly influenced by well-documented cases like the Hudson Valley sightings. This increased academic attention helped legitimize the scientific study of such phenomena and encouraged more rigorous investigative methods. The shift in academic attitude was slow and often met with resistance from established scientific institutions, but it represented a significant change from the automatic dismissal that had characterized earlier responses to UFO phenomena. The advent of the internet in the following decades allowed Hudson Valley witnesses to connect with others who had experienced similar phenomena worldwide. These connections revealed patterns and consistencies that transcended geographical and cultural boundaries, suggesting that the Hudson Valley events might be part of a larger, global phenomenon. Online networks also facilitated the sharing of technical analysis, photographic evidence, and investigative techniques among researchers worldwide, accelerating the development of UFO research methodology and expanding the pool of available expertise. Modern analysis of the Hudson Valley evidence using advanced computer modeling and data analysis techniques has revealed additional patterns and correlations that were not apparent to investigators using 1980s technology. However, these new analytical tools have not resolved the fundamental mystery of what the witnesses actually observed. Computer simulations of the reported object movements and characteristics have confirmed that the described phenomena could not be replicated using any known aircraft technology from the 1980s or even current aerospace capabilities. The question of government knowledge or involvement in the Hudson Valley phenomena remains unanswered. While official agencies denied any connection to the events, the possibility of classified programs or covert operations could not be definitively ruled out, given the sensitive nature of such information. Declassified documents from the period have revealed that various government agencies were aware of the Hudson Valley sightings and conducted their own investigations. But the results of these official studies remain classified or have been heavily redacted in released versions. International comparisons revealed similar patterns of sightings in other parts of the world during the same general time period, suggesting that the Hudson Valley events might have been part of a wider phenomenon that transcended national boundaries. These correlations intrigued researchers, but provided no clear explanations for the underlying causes. Particularly notable were similar sightings reported in Belgium, the United Kingdom, and parts of Australia during the mid-1980s, all featuring large triangular craft with similar lighting patterns and silent propulsion systems. The environmental conditions of the Hudson Valley region, including its proximity to major metropolitan areas, military installations, and aerospace facilities, led some researchers to speculate that the area might have been selected for observation or testing by whoever or whatever was responsible for the phenomena. The region's geological features, including unusual magnetic properties and underground water systems, might also have made it attractive to entities using technology based on electromagnetic or gravitational manipulation. The lasting impact of the Hudson Valley sightings on UFO research methodology cannot be overstated. The systematic approach developed by investigators like Dr. Imbrogno became a model for studying similar phenomena worldwide and raised the standards for evidence collection and analysis in the field. Training programs for UFO investigators now routinely reference the Hudson Valley case as an example of proper investigative technique, emphasizing the importance of multiple witness corroboration, environmental analysis, and psychological evaluation of witnesses. The case also demonstrated the importance of maintaining long-term databases of sighting reports, as patterns and correlations often become apparent only after extensive data collection over extended periods. The development of standardized reporting forms and interview protocols based on the Hudson Valley investigation has improved the quality and consistency of UFO data collection worldwide. Government response to the Hudson Valley case, while officially limited, appears to have influenced policy regarding the investigation of unexplained aerial phenomena. The establishment of official programs like the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, decades later suggests that government interest in such phenomena never completely disappeared. The Hudson Valley case provided a template for how civilian and government investigators might collaborate on anomalous phenomena without compromising national security interests or overwhelming civilian researchers with classified requirements. Recent revelations about government UFO programs have confirmed that cases like the Hudson Valley sightings were taken seriously by official agencies, even when public statements suggested otherwise. The technological implications of the Hudson Valley sightings continue to influence aerospace research and development. The combination of large size, silent operation, and advanced maneuverability described by witnesses represents capabilities that aerospace engineers are still working to achieve. Research into electromagnetic propulsion, gravitational manipulation, and metamaterial construction has been influenced by theoretical attempts to explain the Hudson Valley phenomena, though practical applications remain elusive. The object's apparent ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields and their interaction with witness observation suggests technologies that operate according to principles not yet fully understood by human science. Advanced materials research, including work on programmable matter and smart materials, has drawn inspiration from witness descriptions of Hudson Valley craft that seem to change their appearance and properties in real time. As we consider the Hudson Valley sightings from the perspective of decades past, the fundamental questions remain as compelling today as they were during those remarkable months in the early 1980s. The extensive witness testimony, the consistency of accounts across hundreds of independent observers, and the failure of conventional explanations to adequately address all aspects of the phenomena continue to challenge our understanding of what is possible in our skies. The witnesses themselves, now older and looking back on experiences that occurred in their youth or middle age, generally maintain their original accounts with remarkable consistency. Time has not diminished their certainty about what they observed, nor has it provided satisfactory explanations for their encounters with the unknown. Many Hudson Valley witnesses report that their experiences fundamentally changed their understanding of reality and their place in the universe. They describe feeling more humble about human knowledge and more open to possibilities that mainstream science has not yet embraced. The social networks that formed among Hudson Valley witnesses have endured for decades, providing ongoing support and maintaining interest in continued research into unexplained phenomena. These networks have served as models for similar groups that have emerged around other significant UFO events. Perhaps the most significant legacy of the Hudson Valley Wave is its demonstration that extraordinary phenomena can occur in ordinary places, witnessed by ordinary people going about their daily lives. The experiences of those March nights in 1983 and the months that followed remind us that mystery still exists in our increasingly mapped and measured world, that questions without easy answers continue to drift through our skies on clear, quiet evenings. The Hudson Valley case also established that communities can respond to unexplained phenomena with curiosity and rationality rather than fear and panic. The mature response of Hudson Valley residents provided a model for how society might handle future encounters with the unknown. The scientific protocols developed during the Hudson Valley investigation have been refined and improved over the decades, creating a framework for studying anomalous phenomena that balances open-minded inquiry with rigorous methodology. The case demonstrated that civilian scientists and investigators, working with limited resources but unlimited dedication, could conduct research that meets or exceeds the standards of official investigations. The enduring mystery of the Hudson Valley sightings serves as a reminder that human knowledge remains incomplete and that the universe may contain phenomena and intelligences that we are only beginning to glimpse. The courage of witnesses who came forward despite potential ridicule and social consequences has inspired others to report their own unusual experiences, contributing to a growing database of anomalous phenomena that may eventually lead to breakthrough discoveries. The Hudson Valley Wave showed that the search for truth about unexplained phenomena requires patience, persistence, and the willingness to challenge conventional assumptions while maintaining scientific rigor. The case continues to inspire new generations of researchers and investigators who are drawn to the mystery of what occurred in those Hudson Valley skies and what it might mean for our understanding of reality itself. Modern technology, including satellite monitoring, advanced radar systems, and ubiquitous cameras, has not yet solved the mystery of the Hudson Valley phenomena, suggesting that whatever intelligence was behind those events possesses capabilities that remain beyond our current technological reach. The implications of the Hudson Valley case extend beyond ufology into questions about the nature of consciousness, the possibility of non-human intelligence, and the limits of human knowledge and perception. As climate change and technological advancement reshape our world, the Hudson Valley case serves as a reminder that we may not be alone in our concern for the future of our planet, and that we should remain open to wisdom and assistance from unexpected sources. The desert wind picks up now, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and the promise of cooler hours ahead. Here at the Dreamwave Motel, where stories settle like morning dew on everything they touch, another tale has found its way into the catalogue of human experience, another thread in the vast tapestry of encounters between the known and unknown. The neon sign flickers against the darkness, a beacon for travelers seeking rest, and perhaps, in the quiet hours before dawn, their own glimpse of something wonderful and strange, moving silently through the star-filled night above. As you settle deeper into sleep, carried by the gentle rhythm of the air conditioning and the distant murmur of the highway, remember that somewhere above us, beyond the reach of our understanding, but not beyond the scope of our wonder, mysteries continue their ancient dance across the infinite canvas of night. The Hudson Valley witnesses saw something that changed their understanding of the possible, and in sharing their stories, they offer us the same gift, the knowledge that our world, for all its mapped territories and explained phenomena, still holds secrets waiting to be discovered by those willing to look up at the sky with curiosity and awe. The witnesses spoke of lights that moved with purpose through the darkness, of craft that defied the laws of physics as we understand them, of encounters that challenged everything they thought they knew about reality. Their stories, documented with scientific precision and preserved for future generations, stand as testimony to the enduring mystery of our existence and the possibility that we are not alone in this vast cosmos. In the quiet desert night, under stars that have watched over countless mysteries throughout human history, the Hudson Valley story joins the eternal chorus of human wonder at the unknown. The witnesses have passed their experiences to us like sacred flames, keeping alive the spark of curiosity that drives us to ask the greatest questions and seek the most profound truths. Sweet dreams, traveler, and may your rest be filled with the gentle mysteries that remind us how vast and wonderful our universe truly is, how much remains to be discovered, and how the most extraordinary experiences can find us when we least expect them. On ordinary nights in ordinary places, when the conditions are just right for the impossible to become visible against the eternal backdrop of stars. The Hudson Valley skies have kept their secrets for decades now, but the wonder they inspired continues to shine in the darkness, guiding us toward truths we have yet to comprehend and discoveries that await us in the infinite mystery of the night.